Many people think a homemade solar heater just isn't going to work for heating a pool, but after 10 years with our system, I can tell you that's definitely not true. When I first started looking into building a solar heater for the pool, really wasn't sure what to expect from it, but the fact that this thing is still sitting on our roof 10 years later and we're continuing to use it should give you a pretty good hint as to how it turned out. The heater often increases our pool temperature by 2 degrees a day, which may not sound like a lot, but it adds up quickly. It's helped us keep our pool 85 to 90 degrees in a cool Michigan climate. It's worked so well that our kids complain about the water being too cold if it drops into the lower 80s. With that said, heating our pool with this heater isn't 100% free. There's a little bit of a trade-off I didn't expect, and I'll get to that later on. And before I actually dive into the heater, I think it's important to give some context. Our pool is about 23,000 gallons in a standard oval shape. It's an 18 by 36 with a surface area of about 500 square feet. We're located in Michigan, where the pool season generally lies between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And needless to say, it's very short because spring and fall don't provide consistent warm weather. Prior to building this heater, we'd relied heavily on just a solar cover to keep the pool warm. With the cover, we could keep the pool somewhat comfortable, but it couldn't always offset stretches of cooler weather, especially early or late in the pool season. So I figured we needed to add some sort of heating. And I really didn't want to deal with super expensive monthly bills by going with a gas or an electric heater, so those really weren't even an option for us. I was intrigued by the idea of free heat using solar, but wasn't really sure whether it would actually work. We had a pretty large section of open space on one side of our roof, but it faces east, which isn't necessarily ideal when it comes to solar. And this really caused me some reluctance to throw a lot of money at commercial solar panels. That's when I decided to go with the lower risk option of making my own solar heater. I figured, at worst, if this thing didn't work, I'd be out a few $100 and maybe a few holes in the roof. With that, let's go ahead and take a look at my solar heater. We'll start at the top. We have a 2-story house, but fortunately have a window that leads right onto the roof, making it easy to walk up to our heater. It's located on the other side of the peak, which faces east. And this is where our collectors lie. This is about a half a mile of black polytubing spread across 12 individual panels. Each of the panels has about 230 feet worth of this tubing, and it's really just basic half-inch irrigation tubing, nothing fancy. I coiled up the tubing to make sure that I could fit as much as possible on each of my panels. The panels are essentially just a 4x4 foot square piece of plywood that I painted black in order to maximize absorption. Each panel provides about 15 square feet of collector area, giving me a total of 180 square feet of coverage. I mounted the panels on rails made of 2x4s in order to allow airflow underneath and to avoid trapping moisture. And yes, I did have to drill holes in the roof to secure these rails, and honestly, that was one of my biggest reservations when it came to this project. I didn't want to create leaks in the roof, and fortunately, the sealant has held up, no leaks in the 10 years that we've had them installed. And I have PVC headers for the supply and return to the panels, allowing me to connect them in parallel. And now let's look at how these panels are actually connected to our pool system. Prior to installing the solar heater, my pool setup was pretty standard. I had a pump, filter, and inline chlorinator that would circulate the pool water to help keep it clean. But with this pool heater, the setup became a bit more complex. I tied my new heater loop in between the filter and chlorinator. PVC piping connects the collectors to my equipment pad. So the path that our heater plumbing runs is actually underneath our deck. If we didn't have a deck, I'd probably look to bury these, but this makes for nice, easy access. And for any solar heater that's tied into the equipment pad, it's going to be imperative that we have a 3-way valve here. This is our solar valve. It's going to direct water up to the roof when it's warm enough up there, or if it's cloudy, not warm enough, this valve is closed to the roof so that the water is just going to go through the normal path from the pump to the filter back to the pool with no heating. And this is optional, but for our system, I've added automation so that this valve is automatically going to be controlled based on the temperature being sensed on the roof. Makes it a lot easier so I don't have to monitor the weather and figure out if I need to open or close this valve before I go to work. It's going to do it automatically. Overall, the concept of this solar heater is similar to most and pretty simple. Water gets pumped from the pad, travels up the roof through these coils where it absorbs that solar energy and then comes back down warmer before going back into the pool. But as fun as it was to actually build and install the solar heater, it would be a bit deflating if it didn't actually add any warmth to the pool. And that's really a big question that a lot of people have when it comes to these DIY solar heaters is, do they actually work? From our experience, the answer is yes. The setup has consistently kept our pool in the mid to upper 80s during the swim season. If we're in the water swimming while the solar heater's on, we can feel the strong current of warm water flowing back into the pool from the jets. But it's definitely important to temper expectations. Solar heaters are not going to raise the temperature nearly as fast as an electric or gas heater. It's really working on the principle of gradual heating, usually a couple degrees per day under good sun. This can really add up over the course of several days. And while I can physically feel the warmth flowing into the pool from the solar heater, I'm an engineer and I need data to validate my feelings. So over the years, I've taken quite a few measurements using a few different methods, and while the exact numbers vary a bit depending on how it's measured, the overall trend has been very consistent. Even with our east-facing panels, it gets warm enough on the roof that our heater generally runs from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. throughout much of the season. And obviously, performance really depends on the sun conditions. It works best when there's strong direct sunlight and a good temperature difference between the roof and the pool water, which is probably why I see the highest gains between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. On average, I've seen around a 2 to 3 degree temperature rise through the heater, with higher gains during the peak sun hours. But temperature rise across the system only tells a portion of the story. Flow rate through the collectors is also key. Both the temperature rise and the flow determine the amount of heat actually going back into the pool. At high flow, you're moving more water so the temperature doesn't rise through the collector as much. And at lower flow, the water gets hotter, but you're not moving as much of it. If we overlay the amount of heat output that results from flow and temperature rise, we can see there's a range in the middle where you're actually transferring the most heat. Generally speaking, higher flow and lower temperature rise is going to be considered more efficient, but there's still a balance that should be maintained. With my older 1 horsepower pool pump, I was achieving 32 gallons per minute through the collectors, which works out to roughly 40,000 BTUs per hour of heat being transferred into the pool. That means this system can raise our entire pool temperature by roughly 1 degree every 4 hours. As a quick example, we're in early May, it's 10:45 in the morning, 55 degrees outside. The panels are turned off right now, but even with these cool temperatures, we can see the potential. We're reaching temperatures in the upper 120s. If these panels were on, that heat would be transferred into the water running through the coils. For comparison, last summer, these panels were actively running. It was upwards of 140 degrees at the panels, but the water running through the coils was absorbing that heat, which is why the coil temperatures were so much lower. And that absorbed heat is ultimately transferred into the pool. Even though my homemade panels may not be as efficient as off-the-shelf panels, I saved quite a bit of money making my own. And speaking of money, I think this is pretty important whenever somebody's considering a DIY project. How much did it actually cost to build this thing? Materials were a bit cheaper all the way back in 2016 when I built this system. For the panels themselves, including tubing, connectors, plywood, and paint, I spent around $510. For the materials to mount these panels to the roof, including treated lumber, screws, and sealant, came in at about $120. And then we have all the PVC that connects the panels together on the roof all the way down to the equipment pad. This is over a couple hundred feet altogether, and this also includes the fittings and valves. It tallied in at around $380. This all came to a grand total of around $1,000. And then I did add the automation with that solar controller for about $275. Even though in today's dollars, this is going to cost a bit more to build, it is going to still be significantly cheaper than any other heating option out there. For instance, a gas or electric heater can cost upwards of $5,000 after installation and have recurring operating costs that can easily add hundreds to the monthly utility bill. And even off-the-shelf solar panels can sometimes have higher upfront costs than gas or electric heaters, depending on whether you're installing your own panels or having them professionally installed. Just a quick pause. If you enjoy DIY projects around the house and pool, including learning new skills and saving money, consider subscribing, because that's pretty much what my channel is all about. Whether you're building your own panel or buying a panel off the shelf, it is important to know that there are many different factors that go into how well your solar heater is going to perform. Far and away, the biggest factors are going to be the amount of sunlight exposure along with the collector area. In the northern hemisphere, south facing is going to be ideal due to the amount of sun exposure. Typically, west facing will be the next best choice, but even as I've seen with mine, east facing can also work. Unless you're in the southern hemisphere, north facing panels generally aren't going to be recommended. In terms of collector sizing, the general rule of thumb is to aim for around 50 to 80% of your pool's surface area. But even with my collectors only covering about 35% of my pool's area, I still see noticeable heating. As we looked at earlier, flow rate is also a key factor when it comes to performance of the solar heater. Heat output depends on both temperature rise and how much water you're moving, and adding solar increases plumbing resistance, so your pump needs to maintain enough flow to keep the system effective. Thankfully, even with my older 1 horsepower single-speed pump pushing water up a 2-story roof, I was still able to get solid performance. And then if you're in a colder climate like us, where you get freezing temperatures during the winter, if you want your system to last long enough, you need to have a way to drain it for winterization. There's multiple ways to do this. In my case, I used unions that I can disconnect in order to drain the water out in the fall. And obviously, there's a lot more that goes into designing a system that's going to actually work. I'll plan a deeper dive into design considerations such as plumbing, layout, flow rates, and panel configuration in a separate video. Early on in this video, I mentioned a trade-off that hadn't really crossed my mind when I was first contemplating a solar heater. Before diving into this project, I was a bit concerned that my 1 horsepower single-speed pump wouldn't be able to handle what I felt was a fairly difficult stretch to the collectors, mainly because of the height and the length of the coiled tubing. Needless to say, I was pleasantly surprised when I found that it was actually able to push water through the heater. However, when the solar is active, there's definitely an increase in resistance and a reduction in flow. And with my newer variable speed pump, I've been able to see just how significant that flow reduction can actually be depending on my pump speed. And so here is the trade-off. If the flow drops too much, you may need to run the pump a little longer or at higher speeds to maintain good circulation and water turnover, so it does have potential to add some operating costs. In my situation, I'd estimate it costs me an extra $10 to $15 per month in electrical for this, which I hadn't anticipated, but still it's a pretty minor cost compared to that of running a gas or electric heater. But fortunately, after upgrading to a variable speed pump last year, I've gained a lot more flexibility in how I manage my flow and efficiency through the heater. Plus, the lower operating cost of the variable speed pump has more than offset the small increase from running the solar panels. Now that I've given you a rundown of my solar heater setup, I think it's a good time to assess whether it was actually worth it. First, it was truly a fun DIY project, from planning and building to continuing to fine-tune it for better performance. And unlike many other projects, this was a quick one. I built it and fully installed it over the course of 3 weekends. I'm pretty sure I spent more time upfront researching my options for the build than I did actually building. It was also really cheap to build compared to other options, and has the potential for nearly zero operating cost. And most importantly, the solar heater actually works. It's helped make our pool much more comfortable earlier and later into our swim season, especially if we protect heat gains with a solar cover on cold nights. So yeah, this homemade solar heater has definitely been worth it for us. But in the 10 years we've been using it, I've learned quite a few things along the way and also identified some things that I would change if I were going to do it again. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see a deeper dive into the design, automation, performance testing, and optimizations. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.